Indianapolis Colts general manager Chris Ballard spoke to the media today, and it wasn't good enough, and the sense of urgency has risen, and he needs to be better going forward.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Colts podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network around. Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and I'm joined, as always, by our Crocs on the ground, Jake Arthur over at Roundtable Sports. We're here diving into everything Chris Ballard. He spoke to the media today at 11 a.m. Jake was there again, Crocs in hand and ready. Not in hand, I guess. Crocs on your feet. That's what
I just walk around barefoot holding my shoes. That's actually how I live.
Yeah. Boots aren't on the ground. They're in your hand, I guess. But Jake was there at the press conference, so we're going to get his first-hand reaction to everything that went down in that press conference. I think it was like a 45 minutes that he was talking to media. He's always pretty gracious, actually, with his time to the media at the end of the season. We're going to talk about a couple of the most noteworthy news and notes from that, talk about how it's kind of the same old Ballard, though, and we could have played bingo with some of the things he said, and also what we think this offseason could be, and what we could have in store for this offseason with some of the things that he kind of inferred at in his presser. But, Jake, before we get into anything else, what do you think that was kind of your main takeaway? Was this anything notable from Chris Ballard, or again, we're about to go into year 10 with this guy in charge. You've gotten to know this guy pretty well, because of that. Did you kind of sense anything different, or is it kind of a little bit of the same old Ballard today?
Quite a bit of the same. You just kind of have to go about it year by year on like what the specific objectives of the offseason are and what he's willing to say about that. We'll get to the quarterback stuff in a bit. We talked about it for like the entire squad show last night. He did address it, but the most exciting thing to me is what he said about the defense. He acknowledged multiple times that they need to get younger and faster. The defensive front wasn't good enough. It felt like almost a chore when he was tasked with talking about the linebacker group. He paused for like 5 seconds before he said anything, and then he kind of sputtered out, compliments about Jermaine Pratt and Zaire Franklin. So I think we're about to probably see another defensive overhaul, which is crazy because like we saw a lot of turnover last offseason and apparently it just didn't hit hard enough. And then, but there's also ones Mooney Ward that's up in the air. Like there's some things you have to get Wally and Wohler worked in there. Like there is some organic things happening here, but I feel are going to bring in, I would imagine, several outside sources to make the defense again younger and faster. So I know you had mentioned some names on the defensive line earlier today over on X, but I genuinely think it's at every level of the defense. And again, another thing we'll touch on later in the show is, by all indications, they're going to keep being very active in the offseason. Stoking the flames with competition, but also knowing that their defense is a bit older, a bit slower, a bit banged up, and guys they don't have the same pop that they may be used to. So there's a lot that's probably about to go down on the defensive side of the ball, which is exciting because you and I, when there's not like a quarterback to be had and that's not the main objective of the offseason, we get to just nerd out about the entire defense. That's like 500 players now we get to watch in the draft.
Yeah, I think it was kind of interesting because while there was a little bit of an overhaul this past offseason, it still was largely the previous defensive coordinators guys coming in and playing under Lou Anarumo. And we saw how weird and messy that got throughout the season. Whereas like Lou specifically wanted guys like Mooney Ward, Cameron Bynum, Justin Wally. Clearly, Jonathan Edwards was a guy he liked a lot. Not saying that panned out super well, but Jonathan Edwards he liked. You go to the defensive line like the Neville Gallimores, and there were a couple guys that transitioned seamlessly over to this system on the D-line, like Leatu Latu and Adetomiwa Adebore. But we did see kind of this weird meshing at some points, like the Jalen Jones, the Juju Brent, Sam Womack, Zaire Franklin. Kenny Moore kind of to a degree, the older edge rushers and Tyquan Lewis and Samson Ebukam. And there was just this weird mixing and matching that had to be done. So when we say overhaul, like, I think if you really want to just give it this one big push and say, like, you know what, we believe in the coaching staff on both sides. We believe in what they can do. Give Lou what he wants on that side of the ball. Don't keep saying like, oh, I'll give you Mooney Ward, but like keep Jalen Jones around for me. I think he's pretty good. It's like, I don't think he fits this system, and you kind of get that headbutting back and forth. So I want to see like more of that overhaul, like you said, Jake, getting younger, getting faster. You know what would help getting younger and faster on defense, though, is hitting on your draft picks on defense in the last couple years. That's kind of where they've struggled. But yeah, Wally will play a big part of that. Hunter Wohler, if he's healthy, will play a big part of that as well. But yeah, I did think that was kind of one of the bigger takeaways I had today too, Jake, was Carly Ursay wants them to be aggressive in free agency. I think that's been a pretty clear imperative that she's put down to Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen, just when it comes to player acquisition. Don't sit on your hands. Don't bring in a bunch of, waiver wire guys. And we saw them be aggressive all last year in terms of trading for Sauce Gardner, even signing guys like Jermaine Pratt, Xavier Howard. It's not like they all worked out, but it wasn't just, we're only going to put our Dallas Flowers level undrafted free agents, plugging holes. We're going to try to be aggressive if we can. And I think that's what Carly Ursay wants Chris Ballard to be. So I do think we're going to see a pretty active free agency. And it seems clear from this press conference that especially on the edge on defense, and I get the feeling linebacker as well, but 100% on edge, but linebacker as well. He's going to attack that pretty hard this offseason. That's going to be one of the biggest focal points, whether it's the draft, whether it's free agency, or whether it's both for this team this offseason.
Yeah, and I'll own it if I'm wrong, but I think a couple things that almost guarantee some turnover is you got a lot of guys with expiring contracts. And that gives the Colts a reason not to be like, oh, we cut them. They just don't have to re-sign them. You know what I mean? Like Kwity Paye, Tyquan Lewis, Samson Ebukam, Jermaine Pratt, Nick Cross, like they got a bunch of guys exiting stage right just because their contracts are up. Now they might bring a couple of them back, but letting those guys walk right off the bat, that's turnover because they're going to have to bring in other guys to replace them. But also Chris Ballard, when his back is against the wall, tends to put the onus on personnel on the coaches finally. There's a lot of times, especially like I feel like in the draft, it's the scouting department and front office that are really getting their guys. But in free agency, they're getting a lot of like scheme fits for the coaching staff specifically. And knowing that this has to be a team effort and that they have to win, it's now or never. Like you can't keep investing in a bunch of draft and develop guys right now. You need instant impact players. I think they're going to have to get a bunch of scheme fits. And like, maybe that means the guy's not going to have a 9.5 RAS or something, you know what I mean? But they're going to have to listen to the coaching staff and bring in players to replace some of these exiting free agents. I don't know what the draft is going to look like. I feel like Build-A-Ballard is going to be so up in the air this year because they may buck the standards again like they've kind of started to in the last couple of years. But I am almost certain we're going to see a rather large overhaul on the defensive side.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's the way they need to go because, again, there was too much of Ballard just wanting the guys that he's had on the roster to fit Lou's system, and they just weren't very good players. Right. Like we're having a dialogue here in the comments here with Owen, but about Womack and Juju Brents, for instance. Juju Brents played 2 games this year for Miami and then was out for the year again with another injury. Sam Womack's not currently on a roster, I don't believe. And those were the guys that Chris Ballard was trying to push to Lou, oh, these guys can be good. And they had horrendous off seasons.
Womack went to Tennessee, if that tells you anything, and I don't think he's there anymore.
No, he got cut. Yeah. And Jonathan Edwards beat him out in training camp, pretty clearly. So it's we got to overhaul the bottom of this roster. And he even mentioned it, the depth was not good enough this year because that's kind of what the unspoken thing has been this year, right? Where a team like San Fran overcame all of their injuries because they had the depth to overcome them. The Colts didn't overcome their injuries because they did not have that depth on the roster. And Ballard and his staff needs to do a better job of identifying that talent and not going into camp with 3 guys at the top of the roster that we trust and then a bunch of undrafted free agents that Ballard likes. There needs to be a little bit more of guys that we like. And it's just not it's just not feasible to do what they did last year. So, I think for sure that they're going to be a little bit more aggressive going this. Now, do I think he's going to come out and sign 12 players? I don't know. I've never seen him do that outside of 2017 when he first got here. I'd like to see him do it. He has pretty good success when it comes to those like 1 year, like $3 million contract guys. I just posted over on X right before I jumped on about how much fun I had with Neville Gallimore as a player this year. Like, give me 10 Neville Gallimores to fill out the bottom of the roster, and your depth will be perfectly fine, you know? And even if you only hit on 6 of those 10, that's better than not having any of them, you know? So I want to see a little bit more aggressiveness when it comes to that, especially when we talk linebacker later. Like linebacker, you can find these guys on low-end deals that can come in and fit your system. So just be more aggressive in the offseason. Don't roll into the year with Chad Muma and Cam McGrone and all these other guys being like significant players. I think that's kind of what he was inferring at. But coming up, guys, Chris Ballard did also say a lot about the quarterback position. He was a little more generous with Anthony Richardson than other people have been the last couple of days. But does that change our perception, Jake, that Richardson will not be here next year? We'll talk about that here in just a second.
Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming. Between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going on, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month, it's easy to feel like you're losing control. And who's got time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? But that's where Rocket Money comes in. It's the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I personally was shocked when Rocket Money showed me I was still paying for a plant identifying app that I downloaded one summer when I was doing lawn care. I am a nerd, so don't worry about that, guys. But I'd completely forgotten about it, and I was still paying for it. But now it's already saved me money because I can nix it until next summer when I am curious again. I love how it tracks all my subscriptions, and it lets me cancel them right in the app with just a few taps. No more hunting down customer service numbers. You can set budgets and goals, get personalized insights, and receive real-time alerts for large transactions, upcoming bills, and low balances. It even consolidates your checking, savings, loans, and investments into a single dashboard so that you get a clear view of your entire financial picture. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And the wildcard round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. The boosts give you more juice on the bets that you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. You make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. All right, welcome back, everydayers. We are reflecting on Chris Ballard's end of season press conference. And it was a lot of the same. If you were playing bingo, you probably nailed it within the first 15 minutes. But you know what? We are getting into some of the more consequential things that he said here. We talked about the fact that we think there's going to be a lot of moves on the defensive side of the ball because they want to get younger, they want to get faster. But he kind of verified some things we already thought with the quarterback position as well. Everyone has been talking about Daniel Jones in 2026 as if it's some foregone conclusion that he's going to be the quarterback, but he's a free agent. Like, he has to be signed to a new deal first. And he does have the Achilles, but he is one of the more attractive quarterback options on the open market, if he does even hit the open market. So if the Colts, lollygag and they don't lock him up relatively soon and let it get to March, there's going to be some competition for his services. But Chris Ballard basically said today, yeah, there's mutual interest. We want him. He wants to come back. We're not super worried about the Achilles. We'll work that out with his agent. We like his agent. We'll figure it out. So, I mean, I don't know what else we need to hear. I think that would be an enormous fumble of the bag if they found a way to not land Jones, because they also would be totally screwed in the quarterback department.
Yeah, they're going to have Daniel Jones back. I think the last couple of days, it was like, okay, 95% sure he's going to be back. Today, 100% sure he's going to be back. Like, the way they were talking about him today, especially Chris Ballard was talking about him, like, they view him as their franchise quarterback. They view him as their long-term option at quarterback. So I think anyone here, especially us, like last night, even speculating about it, like, oh, maybe he does get like a 1-year deal. I don't think it's going to be a 1-year deal with Daniel Jones.
Probably 3. Yeah.
I think it's going to be a 3 to 4 year contract. Honestly, I think it's probably going to get close to that $40 million per year. I think it's going to be on the higher end than what some people are expecting. I mean, look, if you view him as your franchise quarterback and you're not worried about the Achilles like they've been saying, I mean, if I'm the agent for Daniel Jones, I'm looking at everything they've said the last couple of days and saying, hey, you view him as a franchise quarterback, you accepting that he is your guy, and you don't really care about the Achilles, why are you not paying him like what Darnold got last year? You know, like what's the excuse for like, and I think that's what it's going to be. So we'll see. I said it last night on the show, so I don't want to keep harping on it too much, but I think it's going to be one of the most fascinating contracts of the offseason, how much that Achilles plays into it. But from everything they've said, I'm anticipating that their contract didn't really change much after the Achilles. I think it's still going to be like that Darnold-ish type of deal, and we'll have to go from there. One positive to that is it could lower the cap hit in year one a good bit with the signing bonus and could help them spend at other positions. So that is one bonus to giving him potentially a 2 to 3 year contract. So for anyone thinking about that, though, I think that was one of my biggest takeaways is like their quarterback is Daniel Jones going forward, and they feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. And outside of that, Chris did admit that they made some calls looking into other quarterbacks after Anthony Richardson went down last year. And of course, they didn't have the foresight yet that Daniel Jones would as well. But he was also asked, you know, given Daniel Jones' Achilles injury and the fact that you tried to find someone after Richardson went down last year, might you try and do something similar again? And he kind of hem-hawed a little bit, but came back to Riley Leonard and the fact that they really liked what they saw out of Leonard. Ballard said he thinks there's something there, which I think is fair. In the 2 games we saw, 2 good defenses on the road. I know the Houston game was the second half was backups, but the first half was starters. I'm comfortable with Leonard being the backup. Like, bring in competition if you want to, sure, that's totally fine. But it just depends if the offseason goes along and the prognosis for Jones' Achilles maybe doesn't start to go as quick as they want. Like maybe his progress is slowing down a little bit and he's not going to be ready for training camp or whatever their target date is. They keep talking about his work ethic and everything, and it's like, that's great, but like your body has to respond to the treatment as well. So we'll see. There's more quarterback stuff probably coming down the pipe. It may even just be like one more Brett Rippon level player, but quarterback behind Jones is probably not quite done being tinkered with.
Yeah, I think they'll certainly bring in another quarterback there, but for sure, I think that Riley Leonard's going to be the backup next year, is what it seems like. And while he was more complimentary of Richardson than Carly or Shane were, I don't think like I think there were even times though where it's like talking about other quarterbacks, he brought up Leonard before bringing up Richardson, you know, and I thought that was kind of telling to me. I still firmly believe that Richardson's going to be dealt this offseason. I just think that's the direction this is going. But Ballard did try to be a little bit nicer with him than the last couple of days. So yeah, I think that I think it's going to be Leonard QB2. I think it's going to be Jones QB1. And we'll see about QB3, if they spend another draft pick on one or like another veteran to round out that group.
Yeah, and I think he did say that's a position you kind of always have to continue working on. So with Anthony, when I got the transcript, I read back over it again, and I thought Chris could not have been doing much more dancing around the subject when it came to Anthony Richardson than he did today. He normally is Not that he wasn't complimentary, because he was actually very complimentary, but he always gives a we're not giving up on Anthony. We still think he's got a bright future. I don't want to give up on the kid, and then he goes somewhere else and flourishes. This was the first time I've heard him say none of that. He kind of gave a lot of the Shane answer where it depends on his health. We're waiting on to see if his vision comes back. But he poured on like he's a great teammate, tireless worker. We like the way he responded after he was demoted to QB2, all this stuff. But talking about his future, there really was none of that like there normally is from Chris. Chris is the biggest defender in the building of Anthony publicly. And although he did compliment him plenty, he really did not comment much on his future with the Colts.
Yeah, so I still think that trade is coming for sure, but we'll see, I guess, what's coming with that one. The Colts, as of right now, still, again, they have 5 draft picks, projected to have 7, and I think with a Richardson move, they could get back to 8, maybe 9, depending on team's desperation for Richardson. But coming up, guys, we're going to talk about some other news and notes from this presser, talk about some offseason targets and some ideas that we have going forward based off of the things we heard from Chris Ballard in yet another postseason press conference without a playoff berth.
All right, guys, the draft pick positions for their first round are set. It must be nice for fans who aren't Colts fans, but so many teams are looking for their franchise quarterback still. Have you ever wished to become a pro QB getting drafted first overall by the Colts when you were a kid? Well, now you can kind of make it a reality, at least in gameplay. There's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number 1 draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the number 1 quarterback career mode game on the mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment yet for full career control. So you can sign contracts, train and upgrade yourself, build chemistry and evolve your teammates, give input to your GM on roster moves, play the actual games in 2D, and rise through the ranks to become a bona fide pro football legend. You'll deal with the ups and downs of a quarterback's career journey, from rookie nerves, playoff drama, and every choice that shapes your entire career arc. The Ultimate QB is totally free to play. It has no ads, and it works 100% offline, which is huge if you're traveling especially. It's perfect for when you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special just for you guys. Use the promo code LOCKEDON in all caps in the game store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend QB1. It's your legacy. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are talking about Chris Ballard's end of season presser. 45 minutes, jam-packed full of a lot of the same lingo we hear year to year, but some things applied directly to the objectives of what needs to happen this offseason. So aside, Zach, from just the defensive side of the ball, which we talked about to lead off the show, and being an active offseason, I still think that Chris Ballard overall is going to be pretty active in acquisition, not just in free agents, because the offensive side of the ball, I think they really like it, but they're not quite there. You know, they clearly have a couple things that they're missing a little bit, because it's not like the offensive line was sterling, or the offense in general was sterling silver the entire time through, right? You need some offensive line depth, which we talked about recently as well. But, you know, in the draft, I keep kind of wondering, they're going to wind up with a handful of day 3 picks, especially if they make some more trades. Do you package some of those and move up into day 2 a little bit? Like, I still think overall it's going to be a pretty active offseason.
Yeah, I think so. But I will say the biggest takeaway for me in terms of like the way that the overall motif, I guess, of everything he was saying was every time he had a chance to talk about each side of the ball and talk about these like things or whatever, very complimentary of the offense in general. The defense, a lot of it was getting younger, getting faster, changing things up, adding more to the defensive line. So I think this is going to be such a defensive heavy offseason in terms of just getting guys who fit Lou Anarumo, getting guys who are just younger, faster, and fit more of where they want to go, and making more of their changes there. Because I think one of the funnier things is when he was talking about offense and defense back to back, he talked about like on defense, we need to get more younger and faster and getting these guys in there. On offense, I think we have a good blend of young and old and
Yeah.
guys producing,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So every time he had a chance to talk about both sides of the ball, he was pretty complimentary of the offense and saying that's in a good place. And then with the defense, it was like, we need to make these changes. So like, I think there's going to be so many differences coming with this defense. And just to put like this out there, because we alluded to it in the first segment too, Jake. Some people were getting upset about how complimentary Ballard was about Zaire Franklin and Jermaine Pratt. I think this is one where you have to watch the clip more than read the transcript because, again, it was more like reluctant compliments of those guys. I'm not saying that he thinks that they were terrible. I don't know what he truly thinks of those linebackers, but you could tell kind of from the way he answered that he did not like the linebacker play this year. And he immediately started flashing back to when they had better linebacker plays. Like, oh, we had this time when it was so great. And yeah, I think these guys were good, but I think linebacker is going to be one to change. But my biggest question for all of you guys, for Ballard, for everything, right? The biggest question I have going into this offseason is, does Ballard have what it takes to do what needs to be done in terms of the Zaire Franklin contract, the Michael Pittman Jr. contract, potentially the Kenny Moore contract? Like there's a couple other ones in there as well, like we talked about a couple days ago. Does he have the guts to do what needs to be done? Because outside of pushing a lot of Jones's money to the future, which a guy coming off an Achilles injury is probably not smart to do, there's not many other ways to free up a bunch of cap space. So how are you going to free that up? Franklin's contract, Pittman's contract, and a couple other ones. Does he have the guts to do it? He didn't commit to that at all in this press conference. And not that I'm saying that he needs to come out here and commit to cutting players, because that would be kind of weird, but I'm curious to see if that's the next change we haven't seen from Ballard. He's been more aggressive in free agency. He made a big trade. He's, been a little bit more aggressive in player acquisition, but will he cut guys that he's drafted? That's going to be the big question here this offseason.
Yeah, and that's kind of to answer Owen Stevens here, where he says, how will the offseason be more active? It's not just only necessarily in player acquisition. It's willing to roll up your sleeves in every area, kind of. It would be new territory for him to cut bait on active veteran contracts for players that are homegrown. Again, $29 million for Michael Pittman Jr. next year. That's the 7th highest receiver hit in the NFL. That's crazy. He can let that happen, but it would probably be malpractice to do it. He said they're going to be confident in their salary cap space. And I know him, he makes that space. Like, he's not comfortable with that $45 million they have right now. Because again, we've talked about Alec Pierce, who we're very confident is going to be a high priority. He said so himself. Daniel Jones. After you do that, well, that eats away at a lot of that $45 million. So how do you make more? Well, you're just going to have these tough conversations, which he did say they're evaluating the roster right now for that stuff. He was non-committal on specifics, of course. But then also he made a concerted effort last year to kind of try to shake things up with the roster overall and not let guys get complacent. Some of that was manifested in just not re-signing some of their in-house free agents. Like EJ Speed was a big example of that to me. Dayo Adangbo as well, Will Fries. Now, some of those were overpriced, but they were willing to get new guys in there. So it's about creating assets through extra cap space, trading away guys kind of along that same line for extra draft capital. But then obviously like signing outside free agents as well. It's just not ignoring any avenue to create more resources, essentially.
Yeah. A couple other things that I had as noteworthy from this press conference. One that I really needed to add as a joke in here was when Ballard was defending his past signings of Achilles torn players or his past having Achilles torn players, saying that Julian Blackmon and Samson have become more positive examples of guys coming back from Achilles injuries. I don't know what football he's watching with those two guys, but they were very different players post their Achilles injuries. I thought that was one of the craziest things that he said in his press conference. Most of it was like milquetoast, but that one I thought was like, man, come on, like, let's get out of here with that. DeForest Buckner, I thought some of the comments on him were a bit interesting. This might just be weird, like the words he used might have been off, but I thought it was interesting when he said Buckner will be playing football next year. and didn't specifically say for the Colts. Now, I don't know if you can trade him or anything. I don't think that would be. Ballard would probably trade one of his kids away before trading Buckner, but I did think that was kind of interesting, at least. But that just might be that his brain automatically goes to Buckner never going anywhere. So that's why he didn't say anything with that. And then the last thing, Alec Pierce, they mentioned that he's going to be a priority this offseason. Now, we obviously knew that everyone else has been saying that as well. He's going to be a priority. But for him to outright say, like, I always believed in Alec Pierce, thought he's always been a good player, love seeing his growth, and he's going to be a priority. I'm not going to go to the same level with Daniel Jones saying he's 100% being back, because if Pierce wants to go, who's stopping him, But if Pierce wants to be back, if his agency gets the deal they're looking for, I feel like the Colts are going to pay him to be back as their top receiver next season. So those are my other notable takeaways. I don't know if you had any other quick ones you wanted to go through too, Jake.
Yeah, it certainly seems like we're going to see the beginning of the Jalen Travis era at right tackle with Braden Smith.
Yeah.
A lot of the same tone talking about Braden Smith as it was last year during the combine, I think it was, when they were like, he was like, I don't know, we'll see how we can figure it out. Now they ultimately did, but now they have tape of Jalen Travis, who they liked coming out of the draft, and they like what they saw him playing on the field. So I certainly think Jalen Travis is probably your right tackle of the future right now. Let's see what the other ones were. I think that was about it.
Very complimentary of the offensive line, although his Gonzalez compliments were a little bit lesser than some of the other guys.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Gonzalez is like the redheaded stepchild, so to speak. I don't know about that one, but yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of like ups and downs, but overall decent. And I was like, I thought he played better than that. Come on, man.
Right,
but it's fine. Very complimentary of Bortolini, though, and of Bernhard Raimann, which I thought were very deserved. Mostly complimentary on the offense in general. It was just the defense that he was kind of a little upset about, for sure.
Yeah, without question. I will say, what's going to be the position group that we all know is a clear need that gets abandoned this year? Now, linebacker is probably going to be overcorrected now. So you're going to get like 4 new guys. And, I think when he quipped back to talking about, basically 2017 to 2020 with all the guys they had all at once, I think that really was a flex by him of saying, I know how to draft linebacker. It's like, all right, man, well, then you got to do it. You actually have to do it. I believe he can draft linebackers very well, but it just didn't manifest last year, but it really needs to now. Because when you look at the positions on the field that you say are getting older and need to be faster, well, oh my God, imagine the linebackers playing run and chase over the middle of the field all year. It did not go well. They looked older and they needed to be faster. So I think linebacker is one he wants to do. And between edge and D tackle, very curious which one he really sets his sights on, because you could get into a real mess at defensive tackle. Because Buckner's hurt, Grover and Buck are both 32, but also your starting edges right now were Laiatu Latu and JT Tuimoloau, who Lou was apprehensive to play for a while. So shoot, maybe they add 6 new guys on the line. Who knows?
I think I'm with Owen here in the comments. I think the neglectful position is going to be O-line depth from him this offseason. It's going to be a lot of.
He's done that before. I think, was it 2 years ago when we were like, they got so lucky that they didn't have this amount of O-line. Yeah.
I think that's going to be the one, and we're going to be looking back after the year like, oh my gosh, why didn't you bring in one veteran swing tackle?
Right.
But that's more of a conversation for later day. We want to thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Colts today and every single day. We'll be back tomorrow to continue breaking down this offseason. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Colts so you get all the latest episodes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on socials. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Colts ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedoncolts.supercast.com to join the club. And for those of you on video, we're going to direct you over to the first ever 24/7 NBA National NBA YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure you make your next listen the Locked On NFL podcast. You guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you back here tomorrow afternoon.